Welcome to the Hermetis Podcast with Andrea Cox, the only plant-based astrology podcast focusing on Hermetic principles, cellular detoxification, and mystery teachings. Andrea's interviews include her celebrity clients, NBA ball players, musical composers, detoxification specialists, and world-renowned healers just like Andrea. Andrea is a model-turned-celebrity detox specialist, intuitive healer, and holistic wellness and life coach. You will find only authentic people interviewed on this podcast. Real recognizes real. Andrea prides herself on only inviting those who are uniquely creative.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Hermetis Podcast. Today, I have the guest I'm actually most excited to interview, Evan Carmichael. Evan Carmichael believes in entrepreneurs. Gary Vaynerchuk called him the DJ who inspires people, and Ed Mylett called him the modern-day Napoleon Hill. At 19, he built and then sold a biotech software company. At 22, he was a venture capitalist, raising $500K to $15 million. He now runs a YouTube channel for entrepreneurs with over 3.4 plus million subscribers and 300 million views. He's written 4 books, speaks globally. He wants to solve the world's biggest problem. People don't believe in themselves enough. Forbes named him one of the world's top 40 social marketing talents, and Incorporated named him one of the most 100 great leadership speakers and 25 social media keynote speakers you need to know. He set 2 world records, uses a trampoline and a stand-up desk, owns Canada's largest salsa dance studio where he met his wife, and has a giant Doritos bag in front of him all day long to remind him that he's stronger than Doritos. Toronto is his home. He's a husband, father, TSM fan, and Timo main. I am so excited. I was telling Mushy, she knows I have detox celebs, and I am literally like this. I feel so blessed and grateful to have you on the Hermetis Podcast. So welcome, Evan Carmichael. I already read your intro. How are you and where are you located? Are you in Canada?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, Andrea. And yeah, I'm in Toronto, Canada. Most of my audience and people who know me, I guess, are in the US, but physically I'm in Toronto, Canada right now.
Wow. So I actually found you, Renee, a girlfriend of mine, Renee, who used to be involved with Joe Polish.
Okay.
I know both of them, and I saw a video you did with Joe, and I saw a video you did with Gary, and I have to tell you, I think you are brilliant. I think you're a brilliant marketer. I think you're a brilliant entrepreneur. But the biggest thing with you, Evan, is you are the real deal. I am a seer, and I see through people, and you are as authentic as they come. So how did you get into this business?
I'm just letting those words hit me. Thank you. It's a lot to live up to. How did I get into this business? I think your purpose comes from your pain. So I think whatever you struggled with the most as a human is what you want to help other people through. And I just struggled so much as an entrepreneur. My first business was really rough. I made it harder on myself that I was too embarrassed and ashamed to ask for help, and just isolated, alone, felt worthless, and eventually made it through. And we can dive into that if you want. But the worst day of my life was when I was 19 and I quit on my business partner. Just hearing me say I quit on something I cared about did not feel like that was who I am. And I was just lost, to be honest, Andrea, just lost. And really all I do right now, I'm 42 in 8 days. And all I really do is help 19-year-old Evans, because there's millions of them out there. And for everybody watching, whatever you've been through, often we feel like it's a scar and it's held us back. And ultimately, I think it's actually the thing that allows us to go and serve and help. That there are millions of people right now who are struggling with the thing that you struggled through, and they need your help. They need your voice. They need your hope. They need your encouragement. And I'm a visual learner. And so I'd much rather see content than read about it or listen to it. And so I just decided that I would start a YouTube channel to try to help other people not struggle as much as I did.
Yeah. And I'm almost in getting teary-eyed here, and I'm not kidding you. You actually made me love entrepreneurs again. I don't want to get into that story because I don't want it to be my story, but you actually made me trust in entrepreneurs again. Finding a video of yours and watching your videos, I was just like, wow. So one of the things that I noticed you talk about in some of your videos is, first of all, believe in yourself. But second of all, defining your niche. I can't remember who it was, if it was with Lewis Howell or who it was with, but I saw you talking about really defining your niche, and coming from someone who has 2 YouTube channels, 2 websites, 2 different businesses, health and spirituality. I was like, okay, this guy is the holy grail. I have to listen to what he says. So if you were looking at me and saying, Andrea, you got to define your niche. You got to choose one or the other. Or is there a way to emerge 2 things into one, in your opinion?
So if you're looking at your audience and picking your niche, what I love to do is build around a core value. So if you're looking at health and spirituality, those are not mutually exclusive. Mm-hmm. Like, you can't have health without spirituality. You can't have spirituality without health. Right. I mean, like they go together. And so the trick in like, what is your niche is like, what is the Andrea brand? Well, it's about what's on top of that makes it all make sense. So if you are only talking about spirituality that had no connection to health, and only talk about health that had no connection to spirituality, then those could live as 2 separate YouTube channels and products and brands. But one, it's a lot more work for someone like you to manage, right? Like, now we're going to manage 2 social media accounts across everything. And it's also less of an expression of who you are, because you're always limited by, I can't talk about this stuff because I'm only focused on X. And so the exercise that I like to go through with people is like, what sits on top? So if you had to think, what does Andrea stand for? That's spirituality is part of it, and health is part of it, and maybe something else is part of it too. But what sits above? Like, what's the mother word where spirituality and health are children?
So your issues live in your tissues is what I feel. I feel like when we clean out our bodies, we heal our emotional trauma and our childhood trauma and past life trauma. So I just kind of feel like it all goes in one bucket of fruits and vegetables.
So how would we define let me ask you this. What's your most important core value?
Oh gosh, being authentic and really never forgetting to learn, always learning, always growing, always ascending to higher levels. Yeah, through both health and through, owning our issues and doing the deep-rooted shadow work we're meant to do. So
I think if you, sit on it, meditate on it, do work with your crystals, like whatever the process is. But if you embrace that concept of growth or ascending or becoming or whatever feels right, like I can't label it or assign it for you. This is a hard thing for you. But if you took something like growth, for example, like if Andrea is about growth, cool. Well, how do you grow? Well, under growth becomes health. Under growth becomes spirituality. Under growth becomes dealing with your past traumas. Like, growth can mean a lot of things, but Andrea is.
I always say the lessons. I find myself always using the term the lessons, because when we learn these lessons, we ascend, we grow.
Yeah. So on top, like you are the growth person or you are the ascending person. And under that becomes all of the brands. So it could all be one. But instead of being the health person or the spirituality person, you're both, but it's underneath ascend. Mm-hmm. So the mother word is ascend, but underneath that is growth and spirituality and healing or whatever else kind of fits what you think ascend is. And then that's what you become known for. And so it makes it a lot easier to make content, to bring on guests, to create products and services, to just manage everything, because now it's only on the one thing instead of having to manage 2 of everything. And I get asked versions of that question a lot, because entrepreneurs often feel like they have to pick between one or the other. Do I do this business or this business? Am I about this or about this? And the answer almost always is to combine them. but not do both at the same time as separate things, but to combine them in a way that nobody else has combined before. That's how you stand out. That's how you're unique. That's your niche that you end up winning at.
That's what I did in my book, Eat Right for Your Zodiac. I plant-based book, but according to Ascension and how to grow using your chart placement. So I love that. I feel like I need your Venmo to send you a check now. I feel like I need to send you
just keep putting out good karma. That's enough of a check. It's filling in my karmic bank account. But that's a perfect example. So if you're writing a book or cookbook and you're talking about health, well, how many cookbooks are there about health? Tons. I mean, tons. And how many books are there about zodiac? Tons. But combining health and zodiac, who's done that? Maybe a few, but now you're being able to do it in a really unique way that you can stand out. And so the stretching and the real ascension becomes more of that mashing up of things that doesn't on the surface feel like it makes sense for most people. Like if you told your friends, or maybe your friends are really aligned, but if you told, random person on the street, I'm going to write a cookbook for your zodiac. So you know what? It's like, it kind of hurts people's brain. It doesn't make sense. But this is how you're unique and you stand out. And not just you, but for everybody. The more you can mash together and make this amazing, smoothie of all the ingredients that make up you, which will always be health and spirituality and maybe healing and whatever else, that is how you stand out. And people start to love you, connect with you, want to dive deeper into your world. And being able to assign it some kind of label is helpful. So if you're the ascension woman, like if people want to learn how to ascend, talk to Andrea.
I love you. I love you. And yeah, it's done really good. I've been all over the news, all over, and it's done great. Like all of them have, but this was something unique. Let me ask you this. You're a dad, right? And you're a husband. And how many kids do you have?
I got one son. He's going to be 13. He's a teenager coming up next month.
Oh my gosh. And you look like you're 25. So how do you balance everything? How do you balance? I heard you have my favorite thing, which is a mini trampoline. It was one of the first YouTube videos I did years ago. Great for the lymphatic system. So how do you balance your home life, your work life? What does balance look like to you? Do you have a routine? Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, I think ultimately, my philosophy is your actions have to map to your ambitions. So what are your ambitions? What do you want to create? What's your perfect dream life? I think part of being an entrepreneur is we get to pick what we do. I mean, that's why we become entrepreneurs. We want to create the schedule that we want for ourselves. So what does a dream life look like for you? And it's not going to be all day working. You don't want to spend all day work on your business. You also don't want to spend all day with your kids, and you don't want to spend all day with your spouse. So what does that balance and mix look like for you? And that's a very personal question. I think part of where we struggle is we compare our lives to somebody else. It's like, oh, well, she's such a super mom and she's doing all these things. And so I suck because I'm not doing it like she's doing or like he's doing it. Where this is a very personal question. And so what I do is I have different days for different things. So every morning, I'll start the day with my morning routine. Part of that includes, if we're talking family time, part of that includes me walk with my wife. So this morning we walked to Whole Foods. We took the dogs out. It's starting to get warm here in Toronto, Canada, which is amazing. Grabbed the Americano from Whole Foods, walk back and just set up our morning. What are you working on today? How was your sleep? Just connecting, grounding, getting some sun on our face, getting some fresh air, hanging with the dogs. Like I like just that connection in the morning to nature and to my pets and my wife. And, it's a half-hour walk. And then from there, I'm mostly working. Like today's been back-to-back calls and podcasts and training and just work. I have 5-minute gaps in between. And my wife works with me. She's in the other room. I saw her outside on the balcony with the dog. So pop in, say hi, give her a kiss, come back, like little micro moments like that. But for the most part, it's just work. And then different days, different actions. We're filming this on a Thursday. That's my public facing day where it's nonstop interviews and podcasts. We'll do something every night to hang out. I'll spend some time just with my wife, usually watching something relaxing with the dogs on the couch kind of thing. I'll spend some time with my son, often like playing Minecraft or something fun that he likes to do. And then that's usually Monday to Friday. Weekends are a different story. Saturday is fun day. And so Saturday, we always do something for the family that's not not work related and not admin related. So we're not going grocery shopping. We're not doing, condo cleaning or house cleaning or whatever, but something fun. Like there's a street festival, or we're going to go for a hike outside, or we're going to try a new restaurant, or just something that we want to do. And then Sunday is family admin day, where that's all of the fold the laundry and clean up the office and, like whatever you have to do to kind of run.
I love this.
Run our lives.
I love this. I love this. We're into astrology here. So I know you're a Taurus. What's your wife's sign? Do you know?
Okay. So I'm the last day. I'm like 20 minutes away from being a Gemini.
Okay. But you're more Taurus, because Taurus rules the bank and entrepreneurship. Okay. So you're more of a Taurus to me, even though you're on the cusp. I was with a Gemini 5 years. You don't have that. You're a Taurus. So,
okay.
So when was your wife born?
And it's by year or by month? Remind me, zodiac.
Month.
Okay. So she's March.
Pisces, like me. That's awesome. Unless she's towards the
middle of March.
Oh, so she's real sensitive and loving and nurturing. And yeah, Pisces are the best. What can I say? So good that's a great one. So, and I love that you have dogs, and I'm not going to ask you if you rescued or whatever, but I love that you have dogs, because I am a huge advocate for dogs. Here's what I wanted to ask you too. Sorry to be all over the board. You make me extremely nervous.
Well, listen, we're not all over the board. We're exactly where we need to be.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much. Thank you. Podcasting's new for me. I did one with John Sally 4 years ago. He's a friend of mine. And I just decided I would go the YouTube route instead. So Forbes, when was Forbes and how did that come about?
I don't remember. I've gotten a whole bunch of accolades, I guess, over the years. And I don't remember what the Forbes one was, like top 40 speakers or top 100 social media, something.
That's great, Evan. He's like, Forbes. Yeah, I don't really remember. I know I was in there, but okay. So moving on. I love that. I love that. That's just, this is what I was telling my assistant before you popped on. You are so real and down to earth. There isn't, and I have to say this, there's not a clout chasing bone in your body. And that, living in San Diego for 10 years and then moving away to Nevada, you are so refreshing. I am just floored at your authenticity and the fact that you don't even remember what Forbes was about. So let's move on. I love that.
Well, maybe it's my Canadianness, or it's my mom flowing through me. If anything, I honestly have the problem going the opposite way. I think it's almost a vice. It's that not talking enough about some of the things, I used to be really afraid to share my story, as an example, right? If you look at my homepage now, it's like my story and what I went through, but I was like, who cares about my story? Like I'm trying to share all these big stories. I haven't done anything compared to Oprah Winfrey or whoever. And I think I struggle more on the other side, where I'm not, if I was a little, not moving the line to be like an egomaniac, but if I moved the line to share more, I could probably even help more people. So I'm working on developing that muscle just a little bit more so we can have a bigger impact.
And the bones of your story is that you first failed as an entrepreneur in your eyes, right?
Well, I think, most people's eyes, I don't know where the winning was there, but yeah, my first business, when I quit on my business partner, it was 19, maybe early 20. And I just felt like a failure. I woke up every day, went to go work, and was not getting any results. And if you didn't work for it and you don't get results, you can kind of understand why. Like you want to look good. You get a diet book, you pick up your book and get all these amazing recipes for your zodiac. But then if you don't do the work to make the recipes, you can't blame the book. But if you're doing it, like I was working every single day from dark to dark, and nothing was happening. And I just felt like a total failure. And again, I made it hard on myself by not sharing my experience and telling my friends that I was hustling and living the entrepreneur life, where really I had no money. Like when they wanted to go out for pizza and beer, I just said I was busy, but really I was just broke because I didn't have enough money to go for beer. And listen, I'm sure if I said, guys, I'm struggling, I don't have money, I can't do it, somebody would have spotted me, or we could have done something easier that didn't cost, we could just stayed in. but I was too embarrassed and ashamed that I wasn't having financial success, which made it harder. Then, you go inside and you go alone. And so all of that started adding up. And about a year into the journey, I told my partner I quit. I need to feel like I'm I have worth as a human. And I mean, there's so many entrepreneurs who go through that right now, that's what I'm trying to, I think by sharing the story, this is the biggest fight I got into with my agent. So I've got an agent in New York who books me, gets me book deals and speaking gigs and all that kind of stuff.
I know, I want his info. I know the dark-haired guy. I know, I've researched this. He's also Mel Robbins' agent, right?
He was with Mel and Grant Cardone and a bunch of people. And
I'm going to blow you up for that information, but go on.
He was pushing me for years about sharing my story, and I need to be famous. And I fought against it for a long time. Like, Steve, this doesn't feel right. I have no need to be famous. I don't like the spotlight on me. And it wasn't until, I don't know, maybe 5 years in, where he said it in a way like, the more people know you, the more people you can serve. The more people know your story, the more people you can help. And maybe it was the way he said it, or maybe finally I just wasn't as stubborn or something unlocked, and I realized, oh, that's what he's trying to say, or maybe it's my own block, and I can finally receive that. And it took a lot of. It's why I love coming on shows like this. So hey, ask me any question, pull back the curtain. I was a struggling introvert entrepreneur with all the insecurities, and hopefully in that story there's inspiration or wisdom that other people can continue on their journey as well and not give up.
I love that. I love that. I too have a story. I struggled with an eating disorder as a fitness model when I was in my 20s. And that's why I got into health and became a vegan 25 years ago. So I have a question about growing YouTube channels. So I have these little YouTube channels. One has 20,000 subscribers. The other has 17, which is great. I'm proud of that. But what would you say to really grow? I know, find your niche. There was a time where I uploaded videos every day for 5 years. What would you say to help someone who's a new YouTuber or who's struggling, who's been a YouTuber for a while and they're just not growing? What would you suggest?
So a couple of things. One, congrats on hitting 20K. Yeah, I don't know how many, it took me maybe 7 years or something to hit 20K on my YouTube channel. So you're probably ahead of where I am, at this stage in the journey. Next is just thinking about never losing a connection to what you're making and why you're doing it. I think the only reason why I had success and stuck with it and didn't quit was because I just felt connected that this will help somebody, as opposed to I would always look at who I was serving instead of who I wasn't. So if I had 20,000 people who subscribed to my channel, it's wow, 20,000 people, could you imagine if you went to do a speaking gig and 20,000 people showed up? It'd be crazy. But because it's online, we feel like it doesn't matter and it doesn't mean anything. And so I would always focus on who I was serving instead of who I wasn't, because the who I wasn't never ends, right? I've got 3 whatever million now. Well, why isn't it 4 or 5 or 10 or 20? The who I'm not game never ends, but who I am and who I am serving especially helps just feel your heart more connected to the work that you're doing. So we're not just trying to win at the algorithm, but we're trying to help humans because you've got a message that can really help people and impact them. And so at least for me, reframing it to who I am serving instead of who I'm not always helped me just stay more motivated to keep going, as opposed to I'm not as big as insert X name out there. Next is combining the things that you love, right? So leaning in more on health plus spirituality. How do those intersect in even more interesting, curious ways that you mess with, but other people haven't seen before? Things that are, you think differently than most people. It's awesome, right? You're a weird duck. It's great. It's so the way that you think,
the weirdest.
But that's awesome. That's your job. As a thought leader, the job becomes to teach other people to think like you think. So even how you walk into a room and even how you set up, you've got a candle going here. You had crystals going on, right? All of this stuff that seems normal to you now is very weird for a lot of people. And some people might judge that and say that that's crazy, but others will be like, this is refreshing. Why does she do it? How does she do it? How can I get some of that in my life as well? And so leaning in on the weirdness is probably one of the best pieces of advice that Brendan Burchard gave me when the first time I spoke on his stage. he said, lean in more to the weirdness. So the things that make you weird and different and awesome that you're afraid of being judged on, lean in on that weirdness more, because it'll feel more home for you, as opposed to feeling like you're trying to be somebody else or look like somebody else. And the more you feel home and alive and have fun, the energy just flows out better, and people will pick up on that energy and say, I love this person. I've never heard of her before, but I want to spend more time with her.
That is so awesome. Yeah, I love that. I think Brendan, isn't he from Ohio? Am I wrong? I think did he go to my high school in Ohio? I feel like he's from Ohio. That name sounds I know he's a speaker, but because both my sisters follow him, and I think he's from Ohio. I'm not sure though. So I love that. I have another question for you. Being in your 40s, I'm actually a little bit older than you. I want to know what inspiration you have for the older generation and then the younger generation. I love Gary. I can't pronounce his name. Vaynerchuk, I think it is. Mm-hmm. I've seen videos you've done with him. I love how he's just like kind of diarrhea of the mouth and says whatever he wants. I absolutely love that. Any advice for maybe someone that's 55 years old that's just now wanting to start their business and go online and put themselves out there?
I think there's still time. I think if you're 55, and listen, I'm giving advice to somebody who, I'm not 55. So hopefully I'll in 13 years, watch this video back and giving myself 55-year-old Evan some advice. But I think if you're 55 and you look at your parents at 55, I would guess that it feels very different. Like if you look at what your parents were doing and how they felt and their life perspective and what they were working on, it probably feels very, very different. You probably feel a lot younger. You probably feel like there's a lot more energy, a lot more ideas, a lot more hope, a lot like your parents 55 are probably planning for their retirement. Like, okay, we got 10 more years, we're going to retire. We're at 55 now. It's like, let's go. We're just getting started. We got so much time left. And so 55, you're still incredibly young. You can combine that now with, you have a lot of experience and you've been through a lot of battles, maybe the wrong word, but you've been through a lot of stuff. And a lot of people are struggling with that right now. And the greatest thing of all time, that if you want to get addicted to anything, it's not drugs and alcohol and everything else. The greatest thing to get addicted to is helping people. And if you see people who currently are who you used to be, you see somebody, if you're 55, you see someone who's 18 or 20 or 34 or 42, and you see them struggling with the thing that you struggled with, and you help them and you see the hope light up in their eyes, like that's the greatest thing of all time. And it's now possible. Technology has made it possible that anybody can create a business, create a show, create content, get it out there. So you still got lots of time. You're incredibly young. Let's go.
We love you, Evan. I know you were on my assistant's messaging me saying 5 minutes left. Okay. So one last question. If you could give anyone who is struggling, not making money in their business, and they're doing what they love and they're putting the hard work and effort in, what would your one piece of advice be?
So on the business side, I would say you have to learn how to figure out how to bring value to people. So doing what you love is not enough, but chasing strategy alone isn't enough either. So a successful business comes from mixing what you love doing with what brings value to other people. If you just love something, but it doesn't bring value, you have a hobby, and that could be a great hobby and fulfilling, but it's not going to become a business. And if you're just chasing opportunity, what's the hot business for this year? You're never going to ultimately win long-term because your heart's not connected to it. And you're going up against people who love the thing. And so it's in that combination of the thing you love doing that brings value to the people that you have a successful business. But I know you only asked for one, but I'd layer on top of it, just believe in what you're doing. Like come back to the intent. Is my intent to serve? Is my intent to help? Am I even just helping 3 people? I know as entrepreneurs, we want more. It's like, we want to serve the world. We got to change global consciousness, right? I mean, this is where we want to go, but did you help one person this week? Did one person benefit? And so imagine if you stopped, then those people won't get the message. And if you look back, I try to position sometimes through regret. I imagine myself being 120, looking back at this moment. It's like, if I quit now, will I regret it? And if so, then just keep going. And if you can continue to focus on who you are serving, it's more the the mental approach. Because when you feel like you're doing something that matters and you feel like you matter, you just show up with a lot more love and energy and care than otherwise. And so if your intent is to serve and to help, just keep going, because the world needs people like you.
I have one more question. We're letting you go because we're going to respect your time. But this came to me when you were talking. You are so brilliant, and you are going to be, Oprah's going to interview you. Listen, I'm a seer.
I like it. Let's go.
I see things. Okay. So if you I believe we have 3 different careers during our lifetime. If you were talking to someone who has been really well known in one career and they just made a shift and are going, do you recommend that or no? Do you feel like we should go with that flow when it's time to change? For example, if you were, 10 years from now, you decided to go in a whole different direction, how do you feel about when you see people do that? Or do you feel like your passion is your passion throughout life?
Like big decisions with the heart, small ones with the head. So if your heart's telling you this isn't going to work, then what do you want to spend another 30 years working on this just because it's a smart strategy? No, it's like the things that you are supposed to do often don't think right. Like your head will say, well, you're crazy, you can't do that, but it feels right. And so it's learning to shut off the brain and make the big decisions with your heart to say, I'm going to do this because it feels right. And then let your head help you figure out how to actually execute those things. So yeah, the second that I stop loving it, if I stop loving YouTube, I'm going to move on. I'll do something else. And I think that's right.
Carmichael just dropped a total jewel on this show. He said, smallness with the head, bigness with the heart, or something like that. I'm floored. We love you, Evan. We are your biggest cheerleader camp here. So we are so grateful that you took the time to come on here. We are grateful. Big virtual hug. Thank you. Have a beautiful day. Thank your family for allowing us to borrow you. I'm stuttering on my own show. I'm like, oh,
you got it. Thanks for having me, Andrea. It's great. You're just a ball of light, and it's been amazing being here.
Thank you so much. We'll talk soon. Be well. Bye-bye.
Thanks so much for listening. If you'd like to check out Andrea Cox's most recent 4th book, Eat Right for Your Zodiac, it's the first book to ever combine astrology with plant-based eating. Andrea's Akashic record readings, holistic wellness coaching, and intuitive life coaching services are sought out by both celebrities and ordinary, everyday people like Andrea herself. If you'd like to connect with her, you can find her at AndreaCox.com, on YouTube at both Andrea Cox TV and The Detox Intuitive, on Facebook at Andrea Lee Cox, and on Instagram at Raw Chef Andrea.